Earlier in this course, I talked about the value stream as the sequence of activities to run a process or a service and the value they create. I mentioned that many tasks don't create any value, such as reworks or data transfers, while some other tasks may create value only partially. Think about a risk approval when 80% of the process time is to search data and only 20% is for the analysis, so the value. So there is an important quantity of waste in the current state that we want to reduce. A couple of weeks ago, I was observing an accountant matching purchase orders with invoices for an industrial good company that issues some 2 million of purchase orders per year. I love observing people at work. As you know, this is what the Japanese call gemba. I remember my coach, himself Japanese, saying, "The truth is gemba." And this is true. Observing people is the only way you capture some important details that people don't tell you in interviews or workshops. What I noticed during this gemba is that when there was a little mismatch between purchase order and invoice below a defined threshold, the accountant was forcing the system to match. I asked her why this mismatch happened, and she said, "You know, sometimes price lists change, but the buyers do not update the system, so the invoice reflects the new price and the purchase order reflects the old price. If it is lower than the threshold, it is good because we can fix it. But if it is higher than the threshold, it is more complicated because the buyer has to change the purchase order itself." I thought to myself, ouch. And then she said, "But you know, my manager is trying to increase the threshold to improve efficiency." And I thought to myself, double ouch. So the reason for my first negative reaction is that the mismatch is just a symptom and not the problem itself. So fixing the symptom by forcing the system to match is a temporary fix that does not prevent the problem to happen again. For the records, this company had 20% of a mismatch. So you can see 20% of 2 millions, it's a lot. My second reaction was about the intention to increase the threshold. If you remember, this is the opposite of the lean principle called Jidoka. Jidoka wants to give extreme visibility to a problem and would have stopped the production line if an issue occurs. In our example, the purpose of increasing the threshold is the opposite, as it is to hide the problem. Besides, by increasing the threshold, the company will just decrease the tension to keep the price list updated, hence will decrease the price list data quality. And will also lose controllership. Think about a supplier increasing the amount of the invoice systematically up to the threshold. So, of course, I warned the accountant not to do it, and I asked her instead to focus on the buyer and convince him to systematically update the price list. Unfortunately, the buyer's behavior is also a symptom. Why do you think the buyer behaves in this way? Because it doesn't know the rule? No. The context makes the buyer behave in the way they behave. This is why we need to find the root causes in the context, by looking at goals, resources, and constraints. In other words, the GRC tool. Let's do this exercise with our buyer. Goals. Is the quality of data a goal for the buyer? Is reducing accounting time a goal for the buyer? Probably not. Resources. Do buyers have the ability to sign off agreements on paper without caring of system accuracy? Probably yes. Constraints. How complicated is to update the system data? Do they need approval from the manager of their manager? Here again, probably yes. In this context, the buyer's behavior is unlikely to change. So, you should consider 3 key points. 1. don't fix symptom. Not only it's useless, but it can even be harmful because it will hide waste instead of exposing it. 2. Don't stop at the first root cause. Ask yourself why 5 times. The 5 whys is the tool we recommend to identify root causes. You will find more details about this in the additional material. 3. If the cause is driven by a behavior, you need to analyze the context using the goals, resource, and constraints tool.